Good morning and welcome to Across the Arts. I am your host, Patrick D. McCoy, and I'm so honored for this installment of the Maestro Series. Today, we welcome the newly minted artistic director of the Grammy Award-winning Washington Chorus, Eugene Rogers. Good morning, Dr. Rogers.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Patrick, for having me. It's so good to be here.
Again, congratulations. Yesterday, the Washington Chorus feted you with a wonderful virtual launch of your first virtual season. And I just want to continue that excitement. How does it feel to be able to, well, I guess not necessarily be able to, but about to embark on a whole season virtually because of the pandemic?
Well, I have to say, because I work with great colleagues like Stephen Mark Baudouin and the board, you know, being creative has helped, right? I mean, we've been able to think out of the box and really hopefully do things that we haven't seen as we celebrate our 60th anniversary season, as well as this new beginning. And so that makes it exciting, but you know, it's challenging. You know, feel the layers of separation are greater than normal, and so we're excited to work through that, and we feel the energy hopefully from the chorus as well as we're getting ready. So.
You know, I love the new slogan, and I sported this wonderful shirt, "Together We Sing."
Absolutely.
That is amazing. Talk to a little bit about this and how you see this as a way of bringing voices together with a sense of community.
You know, all of my life, for me, we're better together. You know, that has been in tandem to that. That's another part of what I often will say. We are absolutely better together, and that's not just as musicians, but as people from diverse backgrounds. I think whenever we can think about our connections more than our separations and divisions and differences, I just think we're just so much more successful. And so together we have launched that theme, Together We Sing. And that's also the reason we're launching this global virtual member part of our ensemble. And because, again, during this time, we want to celebrate that. We want to nurture the togetherness of all of us, even though we're far apart.
Oh, that is amazing. So, Eugene, I want to take it back just a little bit, because back in February, when I chatted with you, I was sitting at my desk at Virginia State University in Petersburg, Virginia. So we have that Virginia connection going.
Yes.
But when we were talking, you and I, we never imagined that we would be on the cusp of a global pandemic and things would change. So talk to us a little bit about, I guess, your life pre-COVID. You know, you
well, pre-COVID, University of Michigan, I mean, teaching 5 days a week, unless I was traveling and guest conducting. And I've had the good fortune of working with many choirs, of varying sizes and abilities. So in addition to teaching my graduate students and conducting the choirs there, traveling quite a bit, probably 3 times a month traveling, and then exigence. Yeah, I think when we spoke, I was actually in Detroit preparing exigence for a couple of concerts for the Sphinx Connect conference. And so
wow.
that was life, and getting ready, excited about moving to DC part-time and coming back and forth from Ann Arbor to DC. And so, gosh, Patrick, I never imagined how much life would change. And even when we heard about COVID, I think, I thought it was going to be something like what we've experienced in the past. We'll have it for a moment, it'll pass through. I mean, wow. I mean, life has changed so much for all of us. But I have to say that the idea of togetherness, we feed off of each other. My grandmother used to say, the iron sharpens iron, and I have relied on that scripture and that reference more than ever, because I think that is how I've been able to forge my way forward, is leaning on others when I'm feeling a little low. And you seem like you're always up, so maybe you I'm feeding off of you. I'm feeding off of you too, brother.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. But since you mentioned your grandmother, and I kind of alluded to in the beginning, this whole Virginia connection, which we're going to explore, in depth when we talk about Andy Moore and also Damian Jeter. I'm from Virginia and you're from Virginia. But since you mentioned your grandmother, talk about how your family and your church experience nurtured your musical essence, and how you decided to pursue maybe a career
in music.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking that. I rarely get to talk about this, and this is very important. I grew up singing all the time. My mother said I grew up in rural Virginia, and I grew up on a dirt road, and I actually don't even remember the day I started singing. It was singing and talking were sort of synonymous for me. So much so, I was singing so much all the time that my people said, "Put that boy in church, let him sing a solo." So I sang my first solo in church at 5. He's that kind of friend. I don't know if you remember, "If you ever need a friend."
Come on now.
So that was the start. And everybody, of course we sang in church choir and all that, but no one really was singing solos and all of that. And so it was sort of strange. Where did this come from? And lo and behold, I fast forward, I was singing in churches, doing concerts and all of that. Actually, as a young boy, they used to call me the young singing boy. That was my junior. I'm a junior. My father died a month before I was born, and my mother and all of her power and strength raised my 2 sisters and me by herself as a single mother. And they used to call, and my nickname is Junior because they named me after him. And so Junie the singing boy. So it was through there that I started, that music was a huge part of my life. And I met Daphne Smith, my junior high middle school teacher, who took me under her wing and said, "I'm going to give you piano lessons." And so from singing in junior high choir and taking piano lessons, it's when she first said to me, "You could major in music." And that is the first time I actually thought about this as a career. For me, this was always a hobby. You do it in church, you hang, and that's when things changed. I started taking voice lessons. Emily Sheely, a director, and Daphne Smith together nurtured that. And then lo and behold, you go off to universities, and I took my first conducting class. And that is when I knew I was hooked. I knew it was like walking. That's when I knew I wanted to become a conductor, and arranger, and teacher. So
I want to speak a little bit more about that in case we have some aspiring conductors, and in particular, aspiring African-American conductors who are studying conducting, because I wanted you to, could you talk a little bit about that transition? Because a lot of times our church music experience is a little bit different from when you go to the university, and you have to kind of balance what you experience in the church versus the academy. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, wow. That is That's a loaded question.
Well, we can be safe with the answer. We're all good.
Well, I was very fortunate to have a voice teacher that saw in me the ability, because I was a gospel singer. Let's be clear. When I first got to college, I was a gospel singer who loved classical music, and I
Mm-hmm.
played classical music on the piano. I took some voice lessons, but my handle always had a little gospel flair to it. And I had a voice teacher who said, Eugene, and I will never forget this, Patrick. She asked me, she says, I want your permission to do what you are wanting to do. You say you want to learn opera and classical music. Do you give me permission to change your voice? She says, because you could make money just right now the way you're singing. And it's interesting. That didn't mean as much to me then as it does now, because
Mm-hmm.
that's she didn't say the way you're singing is bad. You're not a good singer. You're singing with all that vibrato and all that. No, she said, I want to broaden your Crayola box if that's what you want. And so for me, we went on that journey, and I actually left. I didn't listen or play or sing gospel music for 3 years. And that was
Mm.
tough because she said, in order for you to really learn this style, you've been entrenched over here your whole life. You're going to have to leave this for a moment so that you can fully develop and that is what really led me then to really understanding classical music, and then studying with some great conductor mentors, right? Chet Alwis, Joe Grant at Illinois, and then of course Jerry Blackstone and Theo Morrison at Michigan. That really, having those mentors who really understood the style, and that really nurtured from there my gift to really follow and fall in love with a broader spectrum of music. Now I bring it all. There's no separation now, right? I left it for a moment to now everything I do, I feel I'm one musician, period, But
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your transparency and being willing to go there with that question, because I think that was something somebody got fed with your answer. So
I
I want
hope
to thank you
so.
for that.
Because I
Definitely.
do think that's the challenge. Sometimes, you have to leave something to get more of something else. And
Uh-uh.
then you can bring the whole. And I would say to anyone aspiring to be a conductor who maybe comes from a background that's different than maybe what you're learning, it's not that that's bad. It's sometimes you got to press pause, not cancel. Just
Mm.
pause so that you can become a fuller you. Because I make no apologies for everything that I do now, in terms of style and all of that. But I needed to understand really the style, and I had to really live in it and absorb it. So.
It's funny that you mentioned Dr. Jerry Blackstone. I've never had the honor of having a face-to-face meeting. I know who he is and I've seen him. But I remember when I was first out of school, he was one of the presenters at the ACDA convention I happened to go to. And when I heard his choir sing with
Oh yes.
all that voluptuous sound, and it was a majority white choir,
Mm-hmm.
but he let those singers
Oh yeah.
explore their full voices. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow. So if this man can be a professor at the university and do that with this choir, I know that's acceptable. So, oh my goodness,
Well, you better believe it. And that's Michigan. Michigan has, yes, a strong program in conducting and choral music, but obviously, the long history of fantastic singers, and the voice faculty. And so we're fortunate enough that those singers have the range of flexibility, right? And that's really what you hear that also influence in exigence. Those singers who can sing as if needed, as straight as a board, but also as full range operatic soloistically as needed. And so I love that. That's also his influence in my life as well.
So going a little bit further, since you talked about the University of Michigan and the legacy of great teachers, could you maybe talk about somebody that comes to mind immediately? And that's the legendary George Shirley.
So I'll never forget this. George Shirley, when I was looking at the University of Michigan, he was one of the people that, of course, I thought, oh my gosh, I get to go to possibly be at a school with this fantastic, legend, right? And he's the most down to earth, humble. I mean, this man, from the day I walked on that campus, he knew who I was. I didn't connect with him, but he knew. And the reason I know that is because I finished my master's degree, really not having a lot of interactions with him, except revering him and going everywhere that I could to watch him. That he personally said, Eugene, the Boys Choir of Harlem is looking for a conductor, and I'd like to give them your name so they can interview you. And I thought, George Shirley knows who I am. You know what I mean? I mean, that's because that's who he is. He's just not only, his background, his what he did in terms of opera for Black singers, and his really being such a great role model and a phenomenal teacher. He's just a great human being, and I learn so much from him every day as I think about being completely myself and being excellent, but also never forgetting from whence you've come and the people who've helped you along the way. He's a great role model in that way, amongst many other things.
Thank you so much. And this Virginia connection keeps coming up because you also have the great Dr. Willis Patterson, who is there. And he taught at my alma mater for a stint at Virginia State. So you have all of these different academic connections, community connections, and it's just amazing. So I want to go back to yesterday. Yesterday was a big mountaintop experience for you and the Washington Chorus, and I would even say a historic time, because now you're entering the 60th anniversary season of the Washington Chorus, primarily virtually.
Yes.
If you don't mind me adding, of course, you're a great conductor, but you are this organization's first African-American conductor. So you have a lot of strong moments that are happening at once. Yesterday, I hope I'm not talking in circles, but I think it's important for the people to be introduced to you in this time, in this moment. And so I want you to just really express how did it feel to be the center of all that adulation and celebration, the fact that you are joining this organization?
Well, first of all, I come from a background that believes one should never take praise too seriously. And if we can be real, I'm just going to be real, that I look at praise like I think about Jesus entering into Jerusalem, where I think on that first day of the week, it was Hosanna, Hosanna. And by the end of the week, it was crucify him.
Oh, come on now.
I keep that in mind. That is, for me, that is always at the forefront of my mind. So I was excited about the praise and honored to know that I was a part of this huge legacy. When I think back to Julian Wagner and Christopher Bell and Bob Schaefer, I mean, all these great conductors, and the fact that I'm a part of that legacy, these men that I respect so much, but I always keep in mind, as much praise and attention as there is, you take it humbly and you accept it and you're grateful for it. I'm also excited, though, that what I love, because I'm a person who believes in legacy. I really do believe we all, none of us, I don't believe in self-made people. That's a personal opinion. I believe we stand on the shoulders of many who've come before us. I live and stand by that. And knowing that we're looking backwards, so we've commissioned Julian Wagner. That Washington Chorus commissioned him just to celebrate the 60th anniversary. So that was done before I even came on the scene. Stephen Baudouin and those wonderful folks there, and Samir Bashir as a poet. And then we've also commissioned Bob Schaefer. Stephen and I both went commissioned him, knowing that we wanted him to write this carol for our Candlelight Christmas. So that's what I'm excited about, being a part of that legacy, and knowing that we're also looking backwards through our commissionings, and knowing that we're looking forward. But the attention for me, I keep it sort of here. I keep it in check. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I must give a nod to both Julian Wagner, because Julian Wagner was I always tease him and say he's like my first Washington famous conductor friend, because when I really started this journey of arts journalism and interviewing, doing these podcasts, he was there. But also Bob Schaefer, I call him Mr. Schaefer. He was my professor at Shenandoah. So those are two important connection to me. But since we started, you had mentioned the Candlelight Christmas concert and the commissions. Can we backpedal a little bit to the season? Because the season was announced yesterday. And I would like for you to talk about this new work, Cantata for a More Hopeful Tomorrow, that was commissioned by the chorus for Damien Jeter. Talk about that.
Yes. So Damien, I first got introduced to Damien through my dear colleague, Catherine Fitzgibbon, who she had commissioned him several times and was singing in her resonance ensemble. And so I commissioned him actually while I was in the search, while I was a part of the search. I commissioned him to write a piece called Justice Symphony. And once I got the job, the Washington Chorus and I then made it a joint commission between the University of Michigan and the Washington Chorus. And so when we realized that this was not going to happen, right? I mean, this symphonic work, we immediately pivoted and then to commission him to write us a new virtual work, something that could really be powerful even during this time. And we knew we wanted it to be, I'm very much aware and want to honor the tradition and mission of the chorus, where we look to the past, the powerful works of the past, as well as looking forward. So this work, we asked him, let's make sure it's based on something traditional. So it is based on Bach's Cantata 12, Weinen, Sagen, Sorgen, Sagen, and then goes into this brand new repertoire, as well as honoring our connection as African Americans, the African American tradition, going from fear to hope. And so Damien, I asked him to, think about an instrument. He chose cello, so cello soloist and soprano soloist. And so very excited about this wonderful piece of music. It'll be about 20 minutes in length. Wonderful new text that really, and 5 sections. It's a cantata, 5 movement, if you will, cantata that it's great. It's perfectly crafted. I had a wonderful chance of living. Damien would send me little clips here and there. What do you think? And he's a brilliant, talented composer. We're so excited to work with him.
I am so thrilled because we have all these Virginia connections, as we mentioned, and the fact that Damien is from my hometown, Petersburg, Virginia, or really in the Prince George area, but we all claim the same area. And then, of course, Andy Moore being from Norfolk, but moreover, Andy and Damien were both in this recent production of the Porgy and Bess at the Metropolitan Opera. So we get to see all this talent come into place. So I want to move ahead, but that's going to be amazing. And then also, I just want to go back a little bit. There's a lot of attention about his African-American Requiem, which will be also performed by, that work will be performed by the Choral Arts Society of Washington. So I'm so happy that he's going to get all of this opportunity, for his music to be featured. It's so important.
And Justice Symphony, which you haven't heard. That's the work that we actually commissioned him. You'll hear about that in the future.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for spoken word artists, soprano soloists. Anyway, that's later, but that's coming.
I hope I didn't spoil the announcement. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, no, it's a commission. That's where we started, really. So
thank you so much. Listen, so you kind of alluded to the Candlelight Christmas, which is the Washington Chorus big traditional. Everybody looks forward to that program at Strathmore as well as Kennedy Center. Could you talk about the little bit of difference this year because of COVID and the whole idea of the virtual component?
Yes, obviously you think about how important Candlelight Christmas is for the Washington Chorus community. I mean, to go a year without that concert, I just think it would seem really bizarre for this fantastic organization. And so, Stephen Bourgeois and I mean, that was, so you immediately go to what can we do, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is when we settled on this idea that, we can't have the whole chorus, but how many people can we actually potentially have in the hall and still be safe? So we will have a chamber group of about 8 musicians. And I wanted to make sure, that concert is usually with a side-by-side group, right? Organ, brass, timpani. I had the wonderful chance of hearing Christopher Bell's last Candlelight Christmas, December, when I was doing the search. And I knew that we couldn't have brass with 8, Strathmore won't even allow that many people on stage, right? But I wanted to keep some element of the normal. So we will have Paul and the organ. And so we will have a chamber group that will be obviously singing pieces that work with that ensemble. And then the whole chorus will still get to be a part of this, right, through virtual numbers so it will be a concert that will be performance right in Strathmore, right? And then other virtual choir pieces with the full chorus, and the Duke Ellington School of the Arts will be our side by side, because that's the thing that when I went to that concert, I realized how important also the side by side program is for the Washington Chorus. And I knew there's no way I want to end that. I want to keep that strong community connection. And so we're excited that Duke Ellington and Dr. Monique Holmes Spells agreed to be a part of that as well.
I am so happy. This programming is amazing. I'm just so thankful that these organizations, and the Washington Chorus included, are really making steps to pivot during this time to still bring the arts to the community. It's so important. And I definitely want to shout out the Duke Ellington School of the Arts, because that school has produced so many musicians in the Washington area, including Denise Graves and a host of others. But definitely, I'm looking forward to that as well. Now, the thing that excites me, because even though I'm writing about these concerts and reviewing them, which I enjoy, I love being a singer as well. So when I saw this whole idea that you all are going to do this virtual experience with the Berkshire Choral Festival, and you're going to be conducting one of my favorite works, the Duraflame Requiem. My goodness, I love the organ and the choir. Talk a little bit about that collaboration. You mentioned one of the other conductors that you really had close ties with. Talk about this collaboration.
Yeah, this collaboration, Berkshire Choral International, as you know, I mean, gosh, their work with guest conductors is legendary and historic. It's been going on for many, many years. And they were looking to think about all of their programs, right, have been pretty much halted. And so collaborating and thinking of ways that we could sort of honor our goal of masterworks and singing them and connecting with our community. And it was a perfect pairing. It was a natural coming together. And so it was quite collaborative in terms of thinking of the programs, thinking of the conductors that we wanted to work with. And so the first open sing will be September 4th, with each open sing will be preceded by a sort of a score study conductor's chat and looking at the more challenging parts of the work. So August and September will be me leading that, Duraflame Requiem, which it's one of my all-time favorite works as well. And then Kathy Fitzgibbon from the Resonance Ensemble, Lewis and Clark, will be leading us through 3 works. We wanted to also the Mahogany Series, which we'll have a chance to talk about possibly, we wanted to sort of have that appear in different ways this year. And so we really wanted Dr. Fitzgibbon, because of her work with social justice repertoire, and we wanted her to do something that connected with our Mahogany Series in a roundabout way. And she chose 3 works, one which is very brand new, right? The piece by Rollo Dilworth, The Cradle, based on the W.E. Du Bois text, the Adolphus Hellstork, of course, his cantata, and then the Bernice Johnson work. And so she'll be doing that in October. And then the last, Handel's Messiah with Rob Eisted. And December, when folks will not hear, I mean, who knows what Christmas will be like. We thought, what a perfect time to have, it won't be the full work, obviously, 45 minutes to an hour, but still to have that wonderful time to come together and sing through Messiah. I think it's brilliant. And I'm very happy that collaboration is taking place. I hope folks will sign up for all of these programs because we think that they're unique. And I think we're one of the first organizations to sell tickets and offer these programs right away. And so we hope people will join in for one or more or all of them.
I want to just take a moment to applaud the Washington Chorus, and of course your musical excellence for this palette of diversity that the season holders and the people who partake will experience. And I want to go ahead, if you don't mind, I want to jump ahead to that Mahogany Series because I am just so fascinated, and it has in particular. Well, all 3 of the composers are great, but of course, I have an affinity for Undine Smith Moore because she was at Virginia State for over 45 years, and I had the wonderful opportunity as a singer to sing in a performance of the Adolphus Hailstork,
Ah,
So talk to me a little bit and the listeners about the importance of um, amplifying these African American composers and these different styles, because it's not all gospel, it is not
no,
spirituals.
no,
These
no,
are
no.
concert works. Can you talk about the importance of illuminating the concert aspect of African American composers?
Sure. This first of all, just in case folks didn't hear yesterday, the series is will highlight Black, Latinx, and American Indians, First Nations communities, and sometimes it'll be focused on one or the other. Sometimes it will be all three. I really wanted. I've been inspired by my mentor Philip Brunel and his work
Mm.
with Vocal Essence, and I just when they were asking me about ideas, I felt really strongly that DC, I wanted to show all the aspects of repertoire and composers, not just a particular style. Sometimes we can think about Black music, and sometimes it's only spirituals or gospel.
Mhm.
Sometimes we can get stuck with that. Sometimes we can think about Latinx music, and it's only the idiomatic styles that we're drawn to. And I really wanted to have a series that showed the full spectrum and really illuminate voices that maybe people haven't heard. Mary Lou Williams Mass, Done Made My Vow, Dear Miss Rosa Parks, Hannibal Lukumbe. You think the full gamut, thinking about opera, music, theater, it's going to be, Patrick, a full spectrum from I think about old composers like Villalobos from the Latinx community to new ones like Carolina Heredia. Our goal is to not only expose people to repertoire that they are not used to or haven't heard, but also connect with community. I think and having people on the planning team. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, I'd love to have you on the planning committee. There
Oh
will be
my
there will be a planning committee of people from all of these communities that I will consult with, and we brainstorm together so that we're programming with and not for. I really am. I feel very strongly about that. You should program for a concert series like this with the people, not for the people. And so that I'm looking forward to collaborating with colleagues and my friends from the DC, Maryland, Virginia area as we cultivate and curate this series.
Oh my goodness, that is so powerful, Eugene. And everybody heard it, so I will be honored. So I answered on the air. So there you have to hold me to it because I'm live. Thank you so much for even considering me.
Oh,
I want
absolutely.
to, I can't have a conversation with you without talking about the seven last words of the Unarmed by Joel Thompson, because I'll be honest, the first time I think I saw or knew about it, I saw your performance of it on YouTube, and then I got a chance to see Maestro Theodore Thorpe conducted live at the Kennedy Center.
Yes.
Could you maybe talk about the importance and the power of such a work, especially during this time that we're going through right now?
Wow. Well, I mean, that this piece, as you can imagine, I have such deep feelings about it and its journey, right? And uh, as I've said to many people, when Joel and I went on that journey together 5 years ago. I mean, it was 5 years. We knew that it was. It would have many people would have many different reactions to it, and obviously we heard those, but I think we were quite sad, happy, but sad also at the same time when it sort of had a resurgence again, because it seems as if from 2014 to now, how much progress have we really made in this area?
My God.
And I find, one of the things about this work, Joelle and I had the chance of really working closely with Amadou's mother, Miss Giallo. And for her, she says, my son had many popular R&B, rock even tributes, but never a concert hall, one from the concert hall. And to have this conversation in the concert hall with folks sometimes who, we don't think of necessarily going to the concert hall, hearing about Black Lives Matter or last words of unarmed Black men or Black individuals. I think for her, it was one of the most honorable ways to honor him. And I think I fully agree that this conversation needs to happen everywhere. And I feel like finally we are starting to have that conversation. It's interesting to see how much better that piece has been received now versus and it was received in 2015, but on a whole different level, I think, today. And so, there's a lot I can say about that. That's a hard question to answer succinctly.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. Would you mind? I want to entertain a few questions that I think would be so appropriate. I've seen some wonderful, and I won't put you out there. These are wonderful questions. People are really excited. I just can't express again enough, Eugene, the excitement that we feel. And I can't wait till we get to a point we can welcome you at some kind of big party with our mask on. But I do want to entertain some questions because you have some young music directors, seasoned directors. People just have questions. They're excited.
Sure. I'm excited.
Let me scroll through. This is a dear friend of mine, Maestro James Mayo, conducts a wonderful ensemble. So he says, I just got turned down from 3 programs this spring, and I have proficient experience in conducting. I have a nonprofit choral ensemble here in Baltimore, and we have done major choral works, and we're working on our concert season now, Foray, Saison, and Handel. What do you think it takes to get into a choral conducting program at the doctorate level?
So it varies for every university, but so I will speak about the one that I know the most, which is my own. And I will say, he's doing all the right things. First of all, the repertoire is very good, and hopefully that is added. He's not just limited it to Eurocentric repertoire. So that's the first thing I would say is, conduct that and all that our wonderful field affords us. But I also would say make sure that the technique on the doctoral level for conducting degree, that conducting technique is really important, not just having the repertoire. And so without seeing him conduct or anything like that, I would say make sure it's studied privately. I would say if he can take, and I would, especially an orchestral conductor, if really, or a choral conductor who conducts orchestras a lot, get that tangible stick technique experience, because the doctoral level has so many goals and so many things that you have to accomplish that technique can't be the first thing that you need, right? You have so much repertoire, you have so much in terms of the field, being an expert in various areas of the field, that technique you have to have a very strong foundation. So I would say get the technique, get the solid technique that he needs. Good recordings are important, because people are going to judge not only your videos of you conducting, but then what does that choir sound like?
My goodness.
That's the only thing the information they have about you, right? Is that production of that. So making sure that the sound of that ensemble, good technique. And then when you go to that audition, be flexible, be a good person, be warm, be kind, be flexible, and be ready. Make sure your musicianship is really up to standard, because most of these programs will have musicianship tests. And so that sight reading, those rhythm, all of that has to be really, so whatever you have to do to get ready for that, studying privately, growing more in your technique, and getting great recordings. Those are things that I would say, and I'm happy to help anyone they want to have a one-on-one and sit down and listen. I don't have time to give lessons outside of my students, but I can definitely give people feedback. So that's what I would say. I hope that's a quick answer.
That was great. So James, that was a great suggestion there. So thank you. Right from the maestro's mouth. Now I have another great question here. And I don't know if this may be something that Stephen Baudouin probably can help out a little bit, but it's a good one. This question is, has the current chorus membership been affected by COVID, or have they generally remained the same?
I think generally the same. Of course, it has. I think all of our numbers have been affected by COVID, but the numbers are very high. The returning numbers are very good. But of course, it's not 100%, because some folks don't have the technology or want their experience to be that way, to learn basically through this virtual means. But the numbers are very good. We have definitely over 100 returning members. We just want to open our arms. We're not opening our arms because the membership is low. We're opening our arms because we think it can be a resource to help folks who may not have, some folks have canceled their seasons. We think these projects are unique, and we think, why not? It's a chance. To me, you can either look at COVID as, oh my God, this is so bad, or okay, what can be different and unique, and what can we do now that we couldn't do before COVID? And that's definitely one of them. We can open our doors and our arms to folks who maybe want to work with me or sing this repertoire and normally wouldn't be able to do that. So, but that's a good question. Our numbers are definitely are a little lower because of COVID, but we're doing really well considering. Yeah.
But talk a little bit more about opening your doors, because yesterday the thing that excited me, and I don't know about everybody else, but what excited me was this whole global component.
Virtual members.
All these people from around the world really who wants to sing with the Washington Chorus.
Anyone who passes the audition, and let's be clear, it is an audition course. Anyone who passes the audition and who can make those rehearsals and have the technology right to do that, open arms. We'd love to have them join us, our global virtual members. And this is something that the chorus, actually, because of our alumni, we have a lot of people, as you know, because of the DC area, it's rather transient. People may come in for a year and go somewhere else. So we have a lot of alumni who we would love to, this is a way to reconnect with them, as well as folks who just want to try something different because maybe their course doesn't have much of a season right now. We see this also as a way to extend our arms, right? Together we sing. And that's to me the choral world, period. And so we hope folks will join us. We would love to work with some new folks, new voices, new individuals through this time. And then I look forward to what I call the reunion concert, right? Where we actually will invite those members to join us in person for one concert to sort of experience it live at the Kennedy Center or Strathmore or somewhere in DC together, which I think will be exciting too. So.
I want to go back to something, but I want everybody to excuse you because I'm going to get up because I see a program right here in my little studio. I want to show you all because I want to harken back to your Mahogany series. You know, a few years ago, a dear friend of mine, you may have seen the name Deirdre Robinson, who asked the question, but I happened to be going through some things. And this is a program that she did. It was back in 2007. It was called Concert Choral Music of Living African-American Composers. I don't know if everybody can see that. But the reason why I lit up was because she featured Rollo Dilworth and Lena McLean was also included among others. But the Adolphus Hailstork, and I didn't want to misquote, because when you were talking about those pieces, I want to make sure, because I was singing in the quad. I was singing in the choir then. I was singing in the Heritage Signature Choir under the direction of Stanley Thurston.
Absolutely.
And also Chorales with Gretchen Kerman. Those were the featured choirs of that program. But the reason I wanted to get the program, and on that program was featured the I Will Lift Up Mine Eyes. So that was like a nostalgic moment for me. So I just wanted to shout out Deirdre, and she mounted this wonderful program, and it made me think about this entire series that you're going to go across the whole gamut. Latinx, African-American, Indian. So that is just
and working with Deirdre as well. I look forward to premiering some of her works as well. So, she and I have been communicating, and I look forward to meeting her. I've never met her except online, so I look forward to meeting her and singing some of her music. So and in the Hailstork, so I know that means that you're going to be joining us for that for that sing that we're going to have with Kathy Fitzgibbon. So you can sing that solo from your living room. That's tenor solo.
You know about to practice these days, so we will see. I'm trying, to all the listeners, if you have any more questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, because I would love to, have us take advantage of this moment. It's not often. That's one thing you had mentioned. COVID-19 has given us so many opportunities that we may have never had before. Yes. Who would think that, we would have all this access to talk to great maestri like you, or great other artists and performers in such a unique setting like this. So COVID has definitely given us these opportunities. And Kenneth Kellogg says hello.
Oh yes, hello. That he was also in that premiere of Exigence that you saw. He was in that.
I saw him in the bass. I'm see all these people that I know.
Yes,
It's a big community.
Yes, and Patrick, your work in this area is so important. I mean, I love the way you champion artists, and I can't thank you enough. Really, I love that. You're such a great role model for, I think, so many to realize you lighting someone else's candle does not diminish your own. A dear friend of mine, Ellen Bowen, said that quote, and I've never forgotten it. And you do that. You model that. I can light all these folks' candles, and it just means we've got a bright light here. We don't have, it's not taken away. And thank you, Patrick, for doing that and supporting so many of us. I really appreciate it. Fantastic.
Oh my goodness, don't make me get full. We have to get through the whole interview. But listen, we have another question. This is a great one. This is from Clayton Farmer.
Yeah.
Clayton says, how would you characterize the effect that music can have for advancing social justice in relation to other forms of advocacy?
Thank you. Clayton is one of our students at the University of Michigan, very talented young man as well. And, I think music, because we hear so much talking all the time, right? And music is able to, as we know, I like that expression, tame the savage beast. That music calms us in such a way that sometimes people and that's music and to me, all of the arts, sometimes turns that apple just slightly the other way, that folks will consider it or consider that topic or that thought in a way that they necessarily wouldn't in the news or through the media. And that's what I find true, not to mention the people who are part of that experience and the change I think that can happen when they also have firsthand experience of embodying. When we did the Glee Club saying that work, I was big on talking about Ubuntu, which is that South African Nelson Mandela proverb that says we are more human through the humanity of others. I believe in this with all my heart, that when you experience someone else's perspective about life or see the world just a little bit through their eyes, I think it has an effect on who we are as human beings. And that's, to me, what the arts can do and music can do, that sometimes other forms of advocacy definitely helps, but it just has that extra little connection to the heart and, I think, perspective. So that's my take on that.
That's a great answer. You all continue to put questions. We have a little bit of time left, as long as the maestro allows us to ask. But I want to get a little, I know we're talking about music and you studying music and things like that, but I'm sure people probably want to know, like me, I'm definitely nosy. What is like your desert island piece? If you had to be on a desert island, somebody said one masterwork or one piece, what would be your desert island piece?
One piece. It would be the St. John Passion by Bach.
Oh my goodness.
And listen, I love all music because, other things I would, the beautiful part is the gospel songs that I have in my heart. I don't need the music for those. So I'm going, the piece that I had, if I had to take it with me, would be St. John Passion. And Bach would probably be that composer for me, only because I see elements of Bach into so many other composers' classical music. And I could go on and on about why, but that's if I'm limited to one. I have a lot of others who would be on that list, but St. John Passion.
Now, the late, oh my goodness, the late J. Riley Lewis, who was the founder of the Washington Bach Consort, he would have loved that answer. And I don't know if you are familiar, but and also for the listeners, of course, those of us in the Washington area, J. Riley Lewis was the conductor and founder of the Washington Bach Consort, and also longtime conductor of the Cathedral Choral Society. But J. Riley Lewis was one of those colleagues that he could have conducted at the Cathedral, he could have conducted at the Kennedy Center, but he would be at your concert. He would be at, Maestro Thurston's concert or Bob Schaefer's. He was just always
I love that.
and supporting other musicians.
Yes.
So we may have touched on this a little bit, but could you go a little bit further? Because I think that people need to understand the importance beyond the music.
Yes.
The importance of being collegial
Mm.
and a good colleague and
Mhm.
supporting, the efforts of others, even though you might not be able to be there.
Yes. That's where I said to you, my fundamental philosophy is knowing that we are all better because of the people who've come before us.
Yes.
Legacy is so important, and I would say that to young people and folks coming up, that never forget about. Yes, maybe you have a slightly different idea, but rarely is it. I'm doing something nobody else has done. Yes, in some ways, of course, we all have. Hopefully, we've made that kind of impact, but I think that's usually because of someone else that you're able to build upon that. And so I just think we are really a better community when we realize that I can learn from this person. I want to be a lifelong learner and supporter of my colleagues. And we don't live on an island. And so realizing that you stand on the shoulders, you're not necessarily self-made, and that we can learn from each other. That's who I am. That's what I fundamentally believe. Whenever I go to a new job, a new area, I always want to look, okay, who can I work with? Who can I collaborate with? That's just, I think you have more opportunity for creativity, more opportunity for growth and understanding when you do that. So that's my opinion and thought on that, Patrick.
That's amazing. So thank you so much. I'm just trying to fill the screen and see if we have, any more questions. You all make sure you take advantage of this time, because once we do get back on the stage, we're not going to have all of this access. I'm sure there's Zoom and all these virtual things will
Sure.
be a part of that, but I'm just enjoying this time. Like you said, we can look at the glass half full, we can look at it half empty. I mean, it's definitely a wonderful time of actually self-discovery. I've found,
Yes.
even with these interviews I'm doing, I feel like this has been a time that I've been able to take things to the next level. And thank you for being a part of that. I think I see some comments.
And Patrick, you also, in addition to this, you also are a church musician as well, correct?
Yes, I
Yeah.
am. It's so. Thank you for asking me about me. That's better. I was just
Of
interviewed by. I'm rarely on the other side of the table, but when I get the opportunity to be asked a question, I'm so thankful, because I was chatting with Maestro Jeremy Winston on his series.
Yeah,
He has a video
sure.
series too, and he asked me about church music. He said, I do all these things. I write, I do this, I do that. You teach. He said, what do you think is really your calling card? And I definitely feel church music. Church music has always been an important part of my trajectory. And, I think the church is so important to so many musicians, and particularly, from the African-American experience.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the Mahogany Series. The beauty of that is we will highlight that aspect, right? In addition to the non-sacred repertoire of people from these various communities. If folks don't have questions, I do want to just say that please check out our series, and the tickets are on sale now. That's one of the, I think, unique parts, is that all of the programs are on sale now, and that's, we hope that people will join us for November 14th, a cantata for More Hopeful Tomorrow, and the Candlelight Christmas, as well as the Berkshire collaboration. So buy your tickets, join us, or better yet, audition to sing with us even. So I want to make sure I push that.
Oh, definitely. I see a few. You have a few more questions there. We're not going to let you get off that quick. I'm going to milk this out for what it is. Now, one of my dear friends and colleagues who I met many years ago, Stephen Holmes,
Yes.
music director for the Maryland Boys Choir. I hope I got that right. Stephen wants to know, what are one or two major choral works that you wish more people knew or performed?
Yeah. I think one of the pieces that's newer, that I think is actually a wonderful piece, is Frank Tikelli's The Shore. It's a new work. Most people have not heard it or performed it. It was premiered by the Pacific Chorale, and then also done by the New York Choral Society with David Hayes. I did it at the University of Michigan this last year, and I think this is a really a wonderful piece that's new. It was written as a pair to Vaughan Williams' Sea Symphony, which is another work that I think a lot of folks don't perform because there's so many forces required. But that would be one of the pieces. I'm also a passionate lover of Undine Smith Moore, The Scenes and Life of a Martyr. Obviously, this is going to be one of the first things that I do with the Washington Chorus at some point with the Mahogany Series. I don't know how many people know that work. And it definitely should be. I mean, I could give you a whole list of pieces that I think folks should know about, but those are two that come to mind.
Well, Scenes from the Life of a Martyr was nominated for a Pulitzer, and I want to say it was 2018, the Virginia State University Concert Choir got to collaborate with the Richmond Symphony and other forces and soloists, and a Washington-based tenor, Colin Eaton, was the tenor soloist among others. But they did that work, and it's hard because Miss Moore, she wrote for the extremes of the voice. I mean, either you're a high soprano or you're an extremely low bass, and then the other voice is soar. So, oh my goodness, I could just go on and on and on about her music, but that's a great work.
I look forward to doing it in the DC area. So, those are just two. I mean, works. That's the thing. I mean, that's the part of this that saddens me the most, Patrick, is not knowing when we'll really be able to get to our larger symphonic full works. That saddens me with COVID. All those voices, all those many artists on stage together. I can't wait. I mean, who knows when that day will come? Hopefully next year, but we don't really know, do we? So
we don't. You have see. I told you have these questions, and we're almost at the hour. So I want to be cognizant of that. But you have a quick one. Yeah, you do. Let me go to the shorter one. So I just saw here it is. So Trevor says, I know Trevor. Hi, Trevor. Trevor says, just tuning into this, Dr. Rogers. What is your favorite large-scale work by an African? Oh my gosh, this is gonna be a hard question. African-American, and your favorite scaled-back a cappella work by an African-American composer?
Woo! Favorite scale, the favorite, and as you know, whenever you say favorite, I will just say this because it's a part of my audition rep. So obviously, I love this work. I love Adolphus Hailstork's The Lamb. And it's from his 5 short choral works. And if people don't know that, it's simply gorgeous. And it's a part of one of our pieces that I require at University of Michigan for the doctoral audition repertoire. It's really a delightful piece. It's rarely heard or performed. Do you know his 5 short choral works?
I don't know that one, but when I was in Virginia State, we sang this piece called Look to This Day.
Okay.
I think the original title is called An Exhortation.
Okay, yes.
An Exhortation of the Dawn, I believe.
Yes,
but then he changed it to Look to This Day.
Yes. Well, this is The Lamb.
The Lamb.
Yes, The Lamb. And it's part of the 5 short choral works. Major large-scale works, obviously one of the ones that I just talked about was Undine Smith Moore's, The Ordering of Moses by Nathaniel Dett.
Yeah.
Those are just a couple. Since he asked for one, I've given you 2, but those are just a couple.
But another question, this person named 2 people who I have known greatly over the years. Miss Felicia Stovall asked, would you consider doing works from Dr. Diane White Clayton or Raymond Wise?
Oh, they will be a part of the Mahogany Series. Yes, and I'm friends with both of them. She's from California, and I think Raymond is in Ohio/Indiana. I don't know if he moved or not, but oh yes. I mean, that series will feature small scale, large scale works, jazz, gospel, Latinx sacred choral tradition, it will be pretty broad. And that's what I'm excited about. So I look forward to featuring their works.
I saw I saw one more question I wanted to highlight. That's one thing when you're manning your own comments. When I become a big high paid person, I have somebody manning these things. But there was one more question that I saw, and it was so great, and I don't want it to escape. Let's see. I don't want to waste time. But while I'm doing this, I just again want to say congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining this firmament of choral music and performing arts excellence here in Washington.
Yes.
We're just so excited for you and the Washington Chorus and what you're going to bring to the table. I know that some people may see a myriad of things as far as the repertoire. I like the fact that you're almost bringing everything but the kitchen sink. It's such, we're getting the big Western European choral masterworks, but yes, we're getting some of the indigenous music and things of other cultures. We're just really shining the spotlight on things that may not have been presented before. So I want to thank you and the Washington Chorus for giving everybody a voice, especially during this season.
Absolutely. And choral music allows us to do that, right? Because of what culture doesn't sing. And so think about vocal music. It allows us to really connect with the whole world. And I think classical music sometimes gets pigeonholed, right, into what it can do or what it should be doing. And more than ever, this is the time to break out of that box and really bring more chairs to the table. As we were saying yesterday, the more folks we can have. I'm not trying to get rid of people. I'm trying to add to that conversation.
Soprano Karen Slack, shout out to her on her series, her Kiki Conversation. She said something similar. She said, I'm not trying to push nobody out the way. I'm just trying for you to make room so I can sit down. It was something to that effect. But, we're not trying to do nothing. We just trying to sit on down and have our space in our place. So thank you for that. I found the question. What I want to do is ask this question, and this is another question, a great question I feel from Eugene Robinson, because when you're up for these big posts, I think a lot of things come into consideration. So she wanted to know, and I think it's a great question, what was the thought process when making the decision to apply for the job with the Washington Chorus?
That's a wonderful question. Thank you, Deirdre. Well, there are a lot of thoughts. One of the first questions was, can I and I check with a lot of folks. First of all, you check at home. You check my students. It was very important to me that my students at the University of Michigan was actually in favor and support of what that would mean for me there. And then thirdly, my dean, really checking with him to see. And so once I knew at Ann Arbor, things were okay in terms of that, then of course, seeing if it was a good fit. And the interview process and getting to know the Washington Chorus was one of the most thorough experiences I've ever been through. And the questions they asked were so thoughtful. And the more people I met, I felt as if it was a good match. And of course, Stephen Mark Boudouin and Kara Morrissey of the board, she was the chair of the search as well. That energy was vital in addition to working with the chorus. And so there were a lot of factors that went into me thinking that this would potentially be a very good fit. And also loving DC, coming back home, coming to a town that has such a strong commitment to arts and choral music. I knew I wanted to be there, but I didn't know if it was right for me. And after all of those things checked out, that I knew was definitely the right step forward. So thank you for that question. That's a good question.
Again, Eugene, thank you so much for joining us today for this installment of the Maestro series on Across the Arts with yours truly, Patrick D. McCoy. Thank you so much. And again, I want to encourage you all to definitely support the new virtual season of the Washington Chorus. Please. And as Eugene mentioned, I think I have the link here, but at any rate, I hope that you all will definitely support the Washington Chorus. I'm so thankful again for this opportunity to have this really intimate conversation with you. And I'm so thankful for your time and you just allowing the listeners and the viewers to ask you different questions. Do you have a final thought as we close our time together?
You know, final thought, just up from my heart, would just a thanks. I'm grateful to have such wonderful people to work with in the DC DMV area, in the Washington Course, and Michigan and Sphinx. I feel humbled to have these communities. You know, that's something I don't take lightly, and I hope people know that what we're trying to do is bring all of us together, and to bring different voices out, give them a platform that maybe they've not had before, and we hope people will enjoy what we're offering. Thank you, Patrick. It's such an honor to be on here with you. You're amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Again, I am Patrick D. McCoy, and you've been listening and watching Across the Arts. This has been the Maestro Series. And speaking of the Maestro Series, I am excited to announce the next guest of the Maestro Series, which will be conductor Marlon Daniel. Marlon's going to talk to us about Chevalier St. George's and his new orchestral appointment. So I'm excited. So that's going to be next Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. So make sure you mark your calendars. Again, thank you, Dr. Eugene Rogers, newly minted artistic director of the Grammy Award-winning Washington Chorus. Again, thank you all so much for watching and listening, and I hope that you all have a great day. But before you go, some of you may have missed Exegesis when I played that wonderful recording of the Hallelujah from the Mount of Olives. I'm going to share that as we end our time together.